Hey, look out. It's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
On Zoom and on the radio, she's an author, speaker, minister, TV host. She does everything. And what a beautiful place she is right there in California. It's Cynthia Garrett. Cynthia, how are you?
I'm great, and I'm happy to be with you guys.
Man, with a list like that, is there anything you don't do, Cynthia?
Man, I can't fly a plane. That was
Okay.
a little bucket lister.
I was going to say, not yet. I'm
Not
sure.
yet, yeah.
Oh, I don't know if there's enough time.
Never too late to learn.
Cynthia has a brand new book out. It's called Choose Victory, From Victim to Victory. We want to catch up with her on that and find out why she wrote it and how everybody can get it. But first, you being in California, we were talking a little bit before we cranked up here. How you guys doing in this whole isolation thing? Are you still isolated, or what are you doing?
I think the last few days I've officially, my family and I officially threw in the towel. It was Mother's Day. I hadn't seen my son, his girlfriend, my other son. It was just, and I said, that's it, come home. I mean, this is called terrorism, what this is called. It's being inflicted by a bunch of governors and senators now who, it's like, hey, people really have the freedom to choose everything in their lives. You can choose Jesus, you can choose victory, you get to choose who you're with. So we should be able to choose how we go out with reasonable rules, but the lockdown stuff, it's like, wow.
Yeah. Rick, I like this. I like this girl. We need to have her on more often.
She's gonna be a regular on if she'll come back.
Yes.
I'll come back.
All right, well, let's do this. I do want to talk about the book, but you just sparked something in me. There's been just political shifts in California, social shifts. What about spiritual shifts? What's going on out there with streaming and the sky is falling? And did God cause this? And what are you seeing?
Well, I think on the one hand, I see more of the same in the lack of coverage of some of these, political and spiritual shifts. For example, in California, the Democrats just lost their Senate seat, their House seat for the first time in 2 or 3 decades to the GOP. That was a big deal that just nobody talked about here. And I found that very interesting.
Yeah.
One of the other things I find interesting is just the fear mongering. We've got a lot of that. And on one hand, it's great that we got out in front of this. I think as much as Trump gets criticized, he's actually done a great job in a situation where nobody knew anything about what they were really doing, because you can prepare for something like this on paper, but you just don't know till you're in it. And then everybody that he relied on for advice, I mean, I've watched some of the news channels string together one response after the next. So you get 15 responses of a person saying, today the sky is blue. Nope, the sky is red. Nope, we can go out. Oh, we should stay in. We're all going to die. Well, this virus isn't that deadly. Oh, no, this virus is really deadly.
Yeah.
And that's from, Dr. Fauci and a lot of these guys who, if you can't rely on them as a leader, who would you rely on?
Yeah.
So, out here in California, I don't understand what our resistance is to being open so that we figure out truth together in a united way. And I think that always brings me back to, God, that the inability that people have to choose faith for their lives. But spiritually, I find that it's a great thing when people get broken and forced to the end of their own efforts, because that's usually the place where you go, well, okay, God, if you exist, I need you to be real and take over.
That's so good.
That is good. We're talking to Cynthia Garrett, author et al. We'll just say et al. How's that? And now, Cynthia, during this time where you've had to be at home and we've all been forced to stay inside for too long for some of us, what has God been teaching you? Because you probably had a lot of time to just be you and God alone.
Boy, he's teaching me how to choose victorious things, choose good fruit, in my mind, my heart, in a situation where you're kind of in a pressure cooker. I think the first couple of weeks being locked at home, it was great. You know, it's like, oh, my husband and I get to see each other all the time. We were in need of a vacation. This is wonderful. You know, well, 2 months in, we're sitting there laughing the other night, not laughing at the horrible stats of what's going on in some homes with abuse and what have you, but laughing because we have not started abusing each other.
Hey, wait, there's still time.
Right. It's like, you know what, honey, I love you, but I just can't stand the sight of you. I need a break. I'm like, I wonder how Jesus feels about this. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not normal. And I
Yeah.
feel very sad for children and young people.
Yeah.
My nieces and nephews who graduated high school this year, they had no prom.
Yeah.
They had no graduation. That's not right.
Yeah.
No.
That's so
agree.
good. Cynthia Garrett, she's got a new book out. It's called Choose Victory, From Victim to Victory. And she kind of opened up there. So we're just going to segue right into it. So this living victoriously, we hear that word a lot, and we've heard it for a long, long time. Define for us your definition of victory and how we can stop being victimized and blaming other people. You have a number of points in your book. One of them is, hey, stop being a victim and stop pointing the finger. First of all, what's the definition?
Well, first of all, I always set the stage with this. I was sexually abused as a little girl by a relative repeatedly for a few years. I was raped as a teenager. I had a horribly physically abusive and mentally abusive first marriage and divorce, and found Jesus in a prison cell testifying against that horribly abusive first, husband, and am a cancer survivor.
Wow.
And a woman of color in the entertainment business. I used to sit in with Regis. I had my own late night show on NBC. I've done a lot of things that required a lot of, just toughness. You got to be tough, and you got to get in, and you can't blame other people because stuff is going to happen for which other people deserve blame. But my father, before he died, taught me the monumental lesson of my life. And he said, now my dad is a Black man who lived through the civil rights and experienced racism in his own story. There's a film called The Banker on Apple TV about him. He's the first Black man to ever own banks in America. Yeah, and he did it in the early 60s by disguising himself as a chauffeur or a janitor to get into his own board meetings because they couldn't know that Black men owned these 7 white banks in Texas.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Smash cut to me, the year late 1999 going into 2000, my father's dying. I said, what's the meaning of life? And he said, well, I'll tell you this. He said, honey, don't be a person of color who chooses victimization. He said, because stuff is going to happen in life. Everybody has stuff. Everybody gets challenged. Everybody gets victimized on some level. He said, and for the first 20 minutes that something bad happens to you, I want you to grieve and get it out of your system. But after 20 years, you're a fool. And I want you to remember this because you have a choice. You have to take the hand that life has given you and play it to the best of your ability, or lay down and be a victim. I never forgot that lesson through all the things that I've gone through in my life. So when I say I choose victory, I don't do it without sensitivity and an understanding that most people in the world don't choose to be victims. Children starving in Africa don't choose to be starving in Africa. Women who are abused don't choose to be abused. People who are poor don't choose to be born poor.
That's right.
Just that most victims don't know how to choose victory.
That's good.
So, right? So, and that was really a Holy Spirit revelation for me in the last year of my life, because I turned in this book and I was so proud. Oh, I choose victory, moving from victim to victor. And the week I turned the book in, all hell broke loose in my life. And my sexual abuser stole our life story, made a movie about it, starring A-level, all this A-list talent. And I went into war with Apple and the filmmakers, and my husband got diagnosed with cancer. And I looked at my husband in tears on many nights over the course of the next few months. And I said, God must be trying to make a fool out of me. Like, how do I turn this book in with this title? And I've never felt like a bigger victim in my life. Wow. Again, repeated abuse. Yeah. And that's when the Holy Spirit said to me, no, I'm giving you a sensitivity so that you can tell people, hey, look, I don't, I don't have a cold heart about this. I know what you're going through. However, no matter what, at some point, life and everybody who's a part of life is no longer the blame. It's a choice. I can't make a choice for victory for you, Rick, or you, Dan. You can't make it for me.
Yeah.
I got to make it.
Yeah.
And so does everybody else.
What a great point you bring up in that how much the enemy would like for us to play the victim and think we are the victim and live in that victimhood and rob us of the victory that we can have in living in the Spirit.
Oh, completely. The cornerstone of my choice for victory is Jesus Christ. When I chose my faith and to surrender my life to him, I knew that I was choosing hope and strength.
Yeah.
Wow. Cynthia Garrett, I think we should take up an offering because I just got preached to.
I did too. Once a week, we need to have Cynthia Garrett on right here. All right, move to Atlanta. Come here. We're gonna be on every week.
She
This
is
girl.
She is smoking. You got to pick up this book. It is called Choose Victory from Victim to Victory. I think we have to go to a break, but let's do this. You got to promise that we need to do this again very soon, within the next few weeks, because we want to pick up going into the next chapters. But before we do that, in the book, what's your favorite chapter and why?
Well, I got to tell you something. My favorite chapter is the political war zone. I break the book into 4 different war zones we fight in. The first is the personal war zone, where you're confronting your own stuff. The second is the spiritual war zone, where you're confronting faith and the habits you build and the sin and the mistakes and the failure that have to do with spiritual stuff that you got to battle. All of that is really heavily connected to the personal war zone. The third war zone we battle in is the political war zone. And I could probably have written the entire book on why our politics are what they are today and why our nation looks like a nation of a bunch of broken knuckleheads fighting and warring against each other. It's
Yes, we are.
And it's because most people don't want to do the work in their personal war zone. They don't even want to acknowledge that there's work required spiritually as an individual. So by the time you get to become a nation, you're a nation of broken people who aren't dealing with their own individual stuff. So I could have probably written an entire book on that. And then the last part is the victory zone and how to really walk in it and stay in it, because it's not that, I make the choice daily for victory over tons of narratives that run around my mind telling me I'm a victim, I'm not good enough, I'm not this enough, I'm not, but learning to walk in victory means you've really effectively learned to war and silence those voices, because they're the enemy.
Yeah.
And he don't sleep.
No, he doesn't.
That is so good. Seriously, Cynthia, that's amazing. What a great book. Pick it up. Choose Victory from Victim to Victory. How can they follow you, Cynthia? On Facebook, Insta, what?
Yeah, well, let's see. Anything you want to know about the book, which is available on Amazon and all the different bookstores, you can go to ichoosevictory.com. And then if you want to follow me, I'm at Cynthia Garrett on Instagram, Cynthia Garrett Ministries on Facebook. I'm Spiritual Chick at Twitter.
Spiritual Chick. I like that.
I'm surprised that wasn't taken.
I got it so long ago that I think I think that's the only reason why.
You're a smart girl.
Even the book, I couldn't believe ichoosevictory.com was available.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about that? All right. A few more weeks, we're going to get back to you. We'll talk to the powers that be and see if you're open for that. It is Cynthia Garrett, Choose Victory from Victim to Victory. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.